Welcome to the Jim Masters Show, live entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're in the mood for a great show. Well, all of them are great. We're approaching almost 900 episodes of our entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series. One of our favorites is making a return to our show. We're so honored and pleased and very happy to have, yes, Batman's Robin, the boy wonder, Burt Ward, is back on the Jim Masters Show Live. He wanted to come back because, of course, we'll talk about his career, yes, which we did in a previous episode, but he has some really cool, very special and important, exciting news about his company, which, of course, is Gentle Giants. We've been talking about that and celebrating it, his love of animals and his lovely wife Tracy's love of animals as well. But with the holidays approaching, he has some exclusive and invaluable tips and advice for keeping your pets happy and healthy during the course of the holiday season. And, we're all about positivity and all of that here on the Jim Masters Show Live series. So we wanted to welcome him back to, again, talk more about his career, but also talk about the incredible things he's doing on behalf of pets. He's a wonderful animal welfare advocate and activist as well. And he's somebody who really, truly cares about animals. We're going to talk about all that. But of course, you guys know him as Boy Wonder, the Boy Wonder, yes, with, of course, Adam West playing Batman so many years in the iconic and beloved television series Batman. So many incredible stories, so many incredible moments. And the series, so iconic, still airs today in reruns. The fan following is extraordinary. Of course, there have been movies that have been made out of the series, but he is the original Robin. And it's really extraordinary, too, when you think about it, because, and there's a great shot where he is with Adam West, who played, of course, Batman, behind the scenes shot. Really, really cool. There's another terrific shot as well. I want to let you know, if you guys didn't know, he received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2020, which is very, very cool and very exciting and well-earned and well-deserved. But, of course, the Batman series is still beloved today. We all grew up with it. We all know about it. And it's just one of those fun series that just makes you feel really good. You know what I mean? In addition to that, and again, we'll talk about all of that, he and his lovely wife, Tracy, have created the incredible Gentle Giants, world-class canine nutrition, dog food, and so much more. And he's also rescued many over the years as well. He's going to tell us about that. I'm talking about incredible amounts that he has rescued over the years. And it's a company that he and his wife, Tracy, are so proud of. He could just be resting on his laurels and just relaxing after all the work he's done in television and film and everything over the years. But they love animals. They have a wonderful, incredible relationship with animals. And that's a cool shot. I love that shot of Tracy and Burt enjoying themselves. Here's another cool shot, too. There they are in the Batmobile at the Hollywood Museum, which, of course, we love the Hollywood Museum as well. Just he's an iconic figure when it comes to entertainment and television, so much more. But he's been giving back to the community and to animals for many years, and you might not have been aware of that. So we're going to touch upon that as well. Gang, if you would like to comment while the show is live as we celebrate Burt Ward and Tracy and his company, their company, and also, of course, his iconic years as Robin, all you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. That's Jim Masters TV, because our lovely chat room is actually open and available. What's that? Well, when the show is on live, which it is right now at an early time just for you, you can comment during the show. You can say hello. We might even sprinkle a comment or two on the screen right now as well. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, where we house hundreds of episodes of our series, you can actually have an opportunity to chat in our exclusive JMS Lovity chat room. And there's a plethora of comments that are already there. So we'll take a look at some of those as well. We thank you for the enthusiasm and for all the support of our entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series where we're bringing back the lost sort of conversation, like Carson and Cavett and some of the legendary TV hosts and presenters of the time, but with a modern flair and a modern vibe and modern twist of today. So excited again to welcome Burt back to the show. He's just a real fan favorite, and he's a fan of our show. We're a fan of him. I want to let you know, too, that little did he know as an aspiring actor that learning martial arts, in addition to his mental and athletic prowess, it would change his life forever, because as a teenager, he had all the makings of the true boy wonder as an all-around athlete, strong in martial arts, wrestling, track, tennis, and golf, combined with a sharp intellect, playing first board in chess in Beverly Hills High School, achieving the top 3% in the U.S. in math and science tests at UCLA, and becoming the world's fastest reader. Burt Ward tested before the American Medical Society in Beverly Hills, California, and was clocked at 30,000 words per minute with 90% comprehension. Just so you know, the average reader reads about 240 words per minute with 40% comprehension. He was featured in an article, Will the Real Boy Wonder Please Stand Up, and subsequently appeared on the national television educational show Read Right. With the help of his dad, a prominent real estate broker in Beverly Hills, California, Burt became one of the youngest real estate agents in California, and met producer Saul David, who arranged for him to sign with a Hollywood agent. His first interview was set up at 20th Century Fox Studios. A few weeks later, Burt was called back for a screen test with Adam West, holder of a brown belt in karate at the time. Burt showed off his athletic ability for the producers by demonstrating some falls and tumbles, and even broke a 1-inch pine board with his hand. Later, Burt attained his black belt from his instructor, all-Korean champion. Burt was friends with Bruce Lee as well. A special piece of movie trivia is that Bruce Lee's first film fight scene of his career was fighting Burt Ward. Did you know that? We're going to talk about it. That's just some of his incredible background. We're just teasing you a little bit with some of his incredible background. Of course, the opportunity to be a part of Batman, the TV series, beloved TV series on ABC television, it was everything that he had wanted at the time. All he had to do was be himself. Batman was an overnight sensation. Biff, bam, boom, the ratings soared. And Burt and Adam West made hundreds of personal appearances together and featured in dozens of magazine articles, including the cover of Life magazine, years later even accepting Harvard's Man of the Year award. And Burt brought one of his original Robin costumes, even then valued at 6 figures. Just really incredible. What's really nice, too, from Caped Crusader to Canine Crusader in 1994, Burt and his wife, Tracy Posner Ward, philanthropist and daughter of former corporate raider and billionaire Victoria Posner, rescued a Great Dane in distress. And that led, all of that passion led to the company that they have today, as I mentioned, which is beloved, and it's Gentle Giants. And we're going to talk about it all and so much more. Again, just giving a little bit of a teaser background here from Caped Crusader to Canine Crusader. We're so honored to welcome him to the show. He's coming to us from California. He's all set up. He's got a really cool background. Well, of course he does. Set up for us as well. We're going to talk about the holidays and keeping your pets safe and so much more. So, gang, keep those comments coming, and feel free to comment in our JMS Levity chat room when you subscribe to the channel. Let's welcome back our dear friend, the one and only, the iconic, and just an all-around nice guy, Burt Ward, on the Jim Masters Show Live. Burt, welcome to the show once again. It's so great to have you here.
Hello, citizen. Holy introduction.
Are you going to do any karate chops or anything for us?
Only if we need to.
Only if we need to. How have you been since we chatted last? You're so immersed in so many incredible things. What have you been up to lately since we chatted last, my friend?
Well, as you know, we obviously we're the largest giant breed dog rescue in the world, having rescued more than 15,500 dogs in the last 28 years, 45 different breeds of dogs. And when you consider there's only 134 breeds of dogs in the world, we've got about a third of those breeds here. But we've been incredibly busy. We not only care for the animals, but we have also developed a very special food that we've actually developed over the years for both dogs and cats. We have our dogs living up to 27 and a half years eating Gentle Giants dog and puppy food. And we also now have our cats living up to 32 years eating Gentle Giants cat and kitten food. So that has been something that is, we consider it our charity. We don't take any salary from it. We only love animals. And what we really want to have is that everybody that has a pet, a dog or a cat, that would love to have them live an extra 5 or 10 years or longer. We want to help them, and we want to show them how we've been able to do it so that they can do the same thing. In our case, with our daughter, Melody, when she was about a year and a half, we got her an American Eskimo, which is about a 25-pound smaller breed, not tiny, but a smaller dog. And she's had that same dog for more than 20 years. And when you think about it, for a child growing up, like a dog can be their best friend. And in most cases, I would say, unfortunately, because traditionally dogs don't live very long, usually only 7, 8, 9 years, sometimes a little longer, but on average only that. You find yourself explaining to your child why their best friend isn't there anymore. But with
Yeah.
what we've been able to do with training and special way of feeding dogs, special way of caring for them, and a food that is different than every other dog food in the world, our dogs are living up to 27 and a half years. And our daughters had the same dog for more than 20 years. So, and then on top of that, in addition to that, my wife and I are, my background is in the film and television business, and we've been very fortunate. We've now built our own animation studio we have a compound, and on our property, we have a beautiful 2,500 square foot animation and recording studio. And now we're building our own sound stage, and we're going to be
Wow.
making programming, television, and feature films using state of the art technology, and combining these things that also involve animals and some very entertaining thing. We like to call it entertainment for kids of all ages.
Oh, that is so exciting, huh? So you've got a lot of things brewing and a lot of things happening. I love the idea of the animation studio as well, and having the opportunity to create television and film and digital media as well. That's exciting. Is that something that's been a dream of yours and brewing you wanted to do for a long time, Bert?
Yes, actually, about 20 years ago, I got involved with what they call visual effects. Visual effects are the digital effects that you see, like, well, on Batman, the pows and zaps. Well, those were actually hand drawn onto the frames. But in today's world, you can use computers to do it. But and so I created a company called Boy Wonder Visual Effects, and I did about 25 major studio feature films, the graphics, the 3D, the explosions, the dinosaurs, all the kinds of things that you see when you see these spectacular movies. And I've always been fascinated by that. And so, and especially it works really great because when you have all these dogs in your house, and they love to be around you 24/7. So you're sitting at a computer, I don't know, 15, 18 hours a day, doing all of this amazing stuff. You've got all your best friends around you. I mean, it's not for a lack of company. They're all there. And I mean, and certainly I, play with them, and they live with us. And most people are stunned to realize that we actually have 50 dogs in our house
Wow.
24/7 for 28 years, and we love these animals. But this is how we were able to discover these techniques for helping your dog live longer and healthier. In fact, in our home, Jim, with something that I don't believe most people have had the luck of having, is that we have no illness here. Our dogs
Wow.
are none, zero. Our dogs are so healthy. The only time they go to a veterinarian is every 3 years for a rabies update. Not no
Wow.
illness, because of the food that we make is so different from all the other dog foods. People say, "Well, what could be? How could you have a food that's so different?" Well, let me just tell you, if any of your viewers out there have dogs, and I'm sure most of them do, ask them to pick up a few of the kibbles of the food they're feeding their dogs, rub them in their fingers, put the kibbles down, rub their fingers together. They're going to feel a slightly greasy feeling. And that greasy feeling is animal fat that has been sprayed onto the food and actually fills the food added on the inside as well that makes dogs hungrier to eat more dog food to make you buy more dog food.
Mhm.
Doesn't sound very healthy, does it?
Think they
But
do that with our human food too.
exactly, exactly. But let me tell you how bad it is. It's shortening dogs' life. People say to me, "How can you have dogs running around?" We watch these videos of your dogs running around like puppies in their 20s, and my dog is 7 years old. He's struggling to get up. He's struggling to walk, and it's because part of it is the food that you feed them. And I tell people, it's not that we discovered the fountain of youth. Believe me, if we had, Jim, I'd be drinking from
You'd
it.
be drinking this.
It's just that we are not prematurely killing dogs. And so when I say that, let me explain why. Because when you think about it, this animal fat, I mean, in our homes, would we, any of us, ever take a can of bacon fat and pour it down our garbage disposal? Well, of course not, because you know that unlike water that evaporates, animal fat coagulates. And when it hardens, it's like cement. And if you did that, you'd ruin your garbage disposal. So when you realize that animal fat can ruin metal, why would anyone ever feed a dog a food that every single kibble is encapsulated in animal fat? That's
Yes.
one of the reasons our dogs live longer. Their arteries aren't clogged, their intestines aren't clogged. The nutrients in the food can freely flow throughout the dog's body. The second thing is, which is something that's really come aware to people now, is the GMOs in our food supply, the genetically modified organisms. If you do any research, you'll find that over 90% of the food supply in the United States has been genetically modified. And you say, well, why was that done? Well, because when farmers were growing plants like rice or other vegetables or fruits, what would happen is as they're growing the plant, pests will attack the plant. And if they spray a pesticide, it kills the plant often as much as it's, kills the pests. So in order not to lose all of the products and the crops, they developed, and this is big companies developed by mixing the DNA of the plant with Roundup, the thing that you hear
Mhm.
about that's causing
Yes.
cancer in people. And but by mixing the DNA, what actually happens is that when a farmer grows a plant and the pests attack it and he sprays the pesticide, the plant no longer dies. It produces the rice or whatever the crop is. But the problem is that crop has absorbed the pesticide. And now your dog or cat, and humans are eating foods that have pesticides in them.
You know.
Okay. And what is that doing? Well, for an animal who doesn't have an immune system as well developed as a human being, it's causing cancer. In fact, on our website, gentlegiantsdogfood.com, I'd like to mention we have a section called non-GMO ingredients. And we got a video from a research site that does research on how these GMOs affect our food supply for both humans and animals. And this 8-minute video, I would invite your readers and viewers to watch because all of the people being interviewed are veterinarians in this 8-minute video. And here's what they all are saying, Jim. They're saying that 10, 20, 30 years ago, they would see one patient, dog or cat, a month that had cancer. Now, with the GMOs in our food supply, every one of these veterinarians are saying that every single day, one out of every two patients they see, dog or cat, has cancer. And it's
Wow.
killing them. It's
Yeah.
killing our pets. And it doesn't have to happen. So what we've done to at great cost and great effort is to find all non-GMO food sources, which let me tell you, it's only 2% of the food supply in the United States. So when you look at all the ingredients on the bag
It's
that's in a dog,
incredible.
can you imagine? It took us a year and a half just to find suppliers that everyone could certify in writing that their product, their ingredient is non-GMO. So combining non-GMO ingredients with no greasy fat on the outside of our dog food, our dogs are living up to 27 and a half years. And it's not hocus pocus, it's the real thing. And because the costs are so significant, my wife Tracy and I, we take nothing from this. We want everybody to be able to afford a food for their dog that their dog can live up to 27 and a half years. And the same with our cats.
That's so incredible. It really is. Have you I mentioned, your incredible athletic prowess and extraordinary background early on. Have you always been health and wellness conscious even at an early age, and now you're transferring that, of course, to animals because they can't really speak for themselves or defend themselves? Has this been something that you can trace back to the early years of Burt growing up in Beverly Hills? I mean, you've always to me, you've always looked like you've been healthy.
Oh, and I
Look at
have.
that cool shot of him. There he
Knock
is,
on,
gang.
knock on wood, I've never had an operation. I mean, I've been very healthy my whole life. But my father believed in an early work ethic, and I started I started work, believe it or not, at a fairly young age. I was the world's youngest skater. Okay,
Yes,
at 3 years
yes.
of age. The world's youngest professional ice skater. My father had a traveling ice show. There I am with my mom, and he what would happen in the show, and it's so amazing that I am able to remember a little bit, just a little bit from actually when I was that age.
Hey,
Okay,
really?
and what I remember is I would remember being on the skates, and they would introduce me, and then two of the professional skaters would each one take my hand, ice skaters, and they'd skate me around this big arena. And I remember, the you could hear all these people, but you couldn't see them because it's dark, and the lights are on the stage or on the ice skate, area. So anyway, I remember that I would skate around, and they would hold my hands, and people are clapping. Well, that's nice. The little kid can, he's on skates, but he's being held up. And then after skating around the entire arena, they would let me go, and I would skate myself. And people were like freaking out. How can a kid that age with skates that honestly, including the blade, are 8 inches long? I mean, the foot is about 4 inches long, the shoe, and skating at that age, what I mean? So that was my father's early work ethic. But I grew up and I was very athletic. I was voted the best athlete in my elementary school and high school. Like you mentioned, all the things I did, and I always loved get out in healthy things. And let me tell you how it affected me getting Batman. On that television show, uh, I found out about it. I was able to get to an agent who sent me out for an interview. I didn't even know what I was interviewing for, to be honest with you. But at the time, there were, as I found out, there were 1,100 young actors that were being considered for this role. 1,100. Okay.
Wow.
And I remember after I was selected, and the executive producer, William Dozier, came to me and said, "Burt, would you like to know why we selected you to play this character of Robin when we've spent a year and a half and met 1,100 young actors that we've gone through, but we picked you?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I'd like to know." And here's what he said. He said, "When we met you, Burt, okay, forgetting television now for a minute, forgetting that, we came to the conclusion that if there really was a Robin, I mean, like the real thing, then
Hmm.
you personally would be it. So we don't want you to quote act. We don't want you to take on the characterization. We think that what you are is exactly what Robin would be like if there was a real one. So we only ask you to do two things. One, be yourself, and two, be enthusiastic." Well, you think I have a problem being enthusiastic? Like, wow, like, so of course not. I can easily do it. So that's what I did for 120 episodes. And I'll tell you something, as I found out later, I was actually paid a very nice compliment, both Adam and I, that doing 120 episodes, thousands of hours of time. My gosh, 3 years of filming, twice a week, prime time, number one and number two show in the entire world. Okay, that when we did this, that with all of the scenes we did, with all of the different 32 different directors that we had during the course of those 3 years, not one time did any director ever tell me how to say a line. And believe me, that happens all the time. They're
Yeah.
directing like, "Oh, well, can you do this with more emotion, or can you be a little more quizzical, or can you this or that?" Not once. And I think the reason is because in my case, I just like as a kid growing up, I wanted to be a superhero. Now, they didn't have Batman comic books, Jim, where I grew up. They had Superman and Superboy.
Superman,
So
right.
I envisioned myself as Superboy. And at 3 years of age, I had a tricycle that I rode around with a bath towel held together with a, you know, a clip on my, holding it together, riding around on my tricycle, wanting to be a superhero. But I thought about it. I daydreamed about it. And, I got to believe, Jim, that thoughts are things. If you think hard enough and long enough and intense enough, you can actually bring these things into your life. And I did that because I was a kid growing up that was kind of quiet. Even though I was all very much into athletics, I would come home every day and actually most of the time either study or go outside and kick a ball against the wall for hours and daydream about being a crime fighter. And look what happened. I got this amazing opportunity. And Adam and I, we had a chemistry, Jim, that I met him at the screen test. I actually screen tested with him. And before the screen test, I was handed a sheet of paper, single sheet that just had little paragraphs with the name Dick and then dialogue and Bruce dialogue. Nope, nothing about Batman, nothing
Yeah.
about Bruce Wayne or Dick Grayson, just that simple stuff. And they said, "Would you like to sit down and talk with the actor that's going to read for the part of the other part?" And I said, "Yes." So I sat next and I was introduced to Adam. Within 5 minutes, the two of us were laughing. We got along so well, and we never stopped laughing for more than 50 years. He and I
Mm.
were such good friends that even with all the hours filming on the set on weekends, we'd find time to go out and play tennis or something. And you'd have people that coming onto a public tennis court and they say, "Look at us," and they say, "Oh my gosh, it is Batman and Robin playing tennis." You know, and we had so whenever Adam was that, Adam had this amazing character. He's so debonair and so suave and so bigger than life. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
big and broad and slow talking as he was, okay, I was fast and quick and I played against it. So the more he did in one direction, the more I did in the other direction, and it just worked. And because we got along so well, people could feel that it was just really, it just was worked great together.
I bet you miss him today, huh, Adam?
Oh, he and I were such good friends. Even after the series, we made thousands of personal appearances. We
Yes.
hold arena records at some of the places that you would think that only a rock group would have. For example, Cobo Hall in Detroit, McCulloch Place in Chicago. We actually were drawing paid attendance of over 180,000 people on a weekend just to come out and meet Batman and Robin. Get autographs, ask questions, and we had a lot of fun.
You also, I mean, the amount of people that you had that came through in various roles, whether they were guest stars or they were part of I mean, Cesar Romero, Burgess Meredith. I mean, you've had some extraordinary people on set that you were working with as well. Were you aware early on, Bert, of the incredible talent that was also surrounding you, the legend that was surrounding you as well?
Let me tell you, I was like a kid in the candy store. Every week I got to work with a star that I had either watched on television or watched in the movie theaters or both. And for me, it was like I couldn't believe that I got a chance to work with these people. And let me tell you, did I ever learn how professional people, especially in the glorious days of filmmaking then, that how they never missed a line, always on time. Everything was just perfect, perfect, perfect. And it really taught me a lot. And I would meet them, and it was just, like Frank Gorshin was the Riddler, and he had a rubber face. I mean, he could contort his face and his voice to be anything. And he and I became good friends. And after the series, he came out and visited our house. He met our dogs. He was definitely afraid of dogs, but he met our giant dogs, and even he got along with them. And the people I worked with were wonderful. These were amazing actors and actresses. Of course, yes, Cesar Romero, Burgess Meredith, Julie Newmar, Catwoman. So many great, and Burgess Meredith, all of them great actors and
Wow, wow,
actors.
wow. Yeah.
Exactly. and they had amazing characteristics that they did. There's just
They
so many
did,
great
right?
actors, and every one had a uniqueness to them. You know what I'm saying? And I watched them. I watched how they approached working, and I saw what they did. And of course, I learned a lot from that.
I thought that the casting on Batman was so perfect because the characters that the Burgess Merediths, the Cesar Ramirez, the Frank Gorshin's assumed, Julie Newmar,
Uh-huh.
it's as if it pulled out elements of their real personalities and just accentuated them. They were all of you were perfectly cast in these roles.
And I tell you something, like Alan Napier played our butler, and when I would make appearances, people would say, "Gosh, you're awfully big. I thought you were really little." Well, you have to understand that Alan Napier, who played our butler, was 6'9". Okay, Adam was 6'3", and they put 4-inch heels on him, made him 6'7". Julie Newmar was 6'3", and with her 4-inch heels, she's 6'7". I'm 5'8", and they cut my heels off so I'd be smaller. But yeah, it's like all these giant people. But it was such fun. I mean, and it was so creative, and we had a big crew and some of the greatest talent in editors and cameramen and lighting people. It was like the cream of the crop. We had fantastic people to work with.
It was really, and then the mix of the animation, the bing, bam, boom, and all of that, the pow, it really was ahead of its time on many levels, just in a technological way and just in what the production value was. It was so well done.
Oh yeah, and the music, the Batman theme song. I mean, oh my God, the Batmobile is
Yeah.
the most famous vehicle in the entire world. Is still the Batmobile. It was auctioned off a number of years ago for like $4.6 million. I mean, it's so incredibly valuable. And I remember riding around in it with Adam, and we actually had three of them because there was such a fear that if something happened, it broke down or got into an accident or something, that we'd have. And we're on set. I mean, let me tell you, it was so expensive to film this.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had a crew that was twice the size of a normal crew. And the reason is because there were so many effects, so many things that had to work, giant birthday cakes, there's just everything was just so big and bigger than life. That's exactly what Batman was. It was bigger than life. And every kid, oh my gosh, they had children were like nuts for Batman. I mean, and for the adults, there was the nostalgia of that a Batman comic book. And at the time in the 60s, this is when teenagers and college kids, you could not get them to stay at a television. They wanted to be out cruising around, these drive-ins on a Friday night, revving up their engines. But because of the satirical nature of what Adam and I did, the kind of suggestive double meanings, all the kind of
Yes.
stuff that in today's world, it's considered, nothing. But then it was like risque, like, oh my gosh, you implied this or you implied that. But the high schoolers and the college kids, they loved it. I
Yes.
would hear about stories that they would fight for a seat at the college dorm an hour and a half before the show come on just to have a seat to watch Batman when it came on for 30 minutes.
I tell you, it appealed to all different demographics too, from the kids all the way up to the seniors. Because I saw it even in my own household. We were watching it. All these different age groups were sitting by the TV, and it was appointment television. People made sure that they were watching Batman and Get Smart and Mod Squad and Idra Magini and Bewitched and all of these series, these iconic series, Gilligan's Island, all of it. It was what you wanted to do. You were home in time for it, and then there's all the lunch boxes, the T-shirts, all of the merchandise that comes with it, cartoons. I mean, it really is extraordinary for you being at that age on such an iconic show. What was it like when you were off camera? I would imagine people would come up to you and say, "Hey, my sink is stuffed up. Can you come over to the house and fix it magically by just twisting something?"
Well, no, actually, it was a surprising situation. Even though at the beginning of every episode and at the end of every episode, I was, in civilian clothes, not in the Robin costume. Even though doing that, believe it or not, people did not recognize me unless I was in costume.
And
So I,
Robin, yeah.
and actually, I consider that a luxury
Yes.
because Adam and I would make appearances, and after the appearance, there'd be like thousands of people out in the crowds. We could walk right out among all those people, and nobody would know that we were Batman and Robin. And that used to drive me crazy on the show because you would see a scene in Commissioner Gordon's office where there's Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, and they have to excuse themselves because there's an emergency, and then a minute later they're back as Batman and Robin, and it'd say, well, come on, I mean, that's got to be the same guys. They're both about the same height. In the real world, people didn't recognize it. It actually is true because people's minds are so focused on what they're thinking about, they just sometimes don't notice these things.
Do you have one or two favorite personal episodes that are your favorites, Burt?
Well, actually, I have a bunch of favorites. And the way I define a favorite is if I survive the episode without having to go to the hospital. That
Right.
to me was always a great thing. Survival first, because we had some really dangerous things happen on Batman. And I don't think anybody ever intended it to be that way. But I mean, the first week of filming, I went to the emergency hospital 4 days in a row. I had
Wow.
never even been into an emergency hospital. I'm certainly not accident prone, but there was secondary burns from explosions, the 2x4 that landed on my forehead and broke my nose. I mean, this was. I didn't think I was going to survive the first week, but I'll tell you something. The studio was very smart. They took out this giant multi-million-dollar life insurance policy on me, and I believe by the end of the third season, I think they were trying to collect on that.
I don't doubt it. Wasn't there one you were telling me where you were in a car? I don't know if you were going through Topanga Canyon or something, and you were like hanging out of the car, or it was just a really risky scene that you had to film.
Well, I'll give you example. The first week, there's a scene in a car that I am inside the car, a burning car, supposed to be burning, and the Riddler is above me, and he's going to climb out and jump out, and then I'm down underneath in a burning car underneath him. Talk about claustrophobia, right? And I have to climb out and then jump out. And what happened is everything was working fine, but when I got up and got ready to jump out, unexpectedly the car blew up. And when it did, just imagine I'm looking at the ground where I'm going to jump, and all of a sudden that ground is coming to my face at like 100 miles an hour because I was blown off the car. And of course, second
Wow.
degree burns on the back of the neck. And then another day we were doing a scene where Batman is supposed to break through a breakaway wall. That's where they make it so it just with the slightest little charge it all falls apart, and it comes in as though there was a real explosion. Well, unfortunately, the studio made a big mistake. The people
Mm.
building the set didn't build a breakaway wall. They built a regular wall like in your home, and there was no time for another 2 weeks to rebuild a set. And so what the special effects guys did, which was I'm not sure was even legal at that time, they used 2 half sticks of dynamite and
Oh,
nearly blew the entire soundstage down. I'm tied down with my arms at my side. I'm looking up and I'm seeing this 2x4 when they blew up that whole thing, and it came down and hit me right on the nose, broke my nose.
oh,
Here I am.
wow.
And I got to be friends with this doctor that was at the emergency hospital, and he kept saying, maybe you're in the wrong line of work. I might be, but I still like it.
Well, I mean, the background that I mentioned earlier, the athletics and the incredible prowess, and to be able to have already had some strength and agility to you, I bet that really came in handy being on set on a series that required so much of that movement as Batman, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, let me tell you something. It did. And these fight scenes, they're not perfect. Some of these stunt guys, even though they're great stuntmen, they get excited and they don't actually pull a punch. They hit you. I mean, and it's not supposed to be that way. But when that happened, boy, I hit them back. I mean, it got to be look very realistic. And when I worked with Bruce Lee, they had and Bruce and I were actually friends. We lived in the same condominium complex, and we used to go out for dinner down to Chinatown. I remember his wife Linda, and when their son Brandon was like 6 months of old, we would go down to have dinner in Chinatown. We were, friends. We were personal friends. So when we filmed this thing on Batman, they really wanted to have it where, like, it wasn't real. It's got to be bigger than life. There can't be any blood. You know what I mean? And on Batman, the way they had the fight scenes, is somebody would pick up a chair and hit it over somebody, and they'd fall down, and 2 seconds later they're up. And even all the pows and the zaps and stuff like that, nobody ever got hurt. And so they made it so it was stylized. You know what I mean? And it was like a safe way of watching action, as opposed to today's world, in which it's unfortunately terribly real.
Why do you think the series still has legs today? Why do people still connect to a series like Batman? And of course, it's nostalgic. It brings you back harkens back to maybe a more innocent time, but it still tests really has stood up to the test of time in such an extraordinary way, and is still in reruns, is still in syndication, still available, still out there. What do you think it is?
There's actually several reasons, but one of the reasons is that it is bigger than life, and it opens the door for people in their worlds that things aren't so great all the time to have a moment of escapism, to go to a place that, where people are able to do fantastic things. And let me tell you something. Our series has affected the movie business and the television business tremendously. Without Batman, I don't believe all of these wonderful superhero films that you see from DC Comics and Marvel would have occurred without Batman proving the viability of them. And something else to give you an idea, one of the things that Adam and I developed on Batman that I see in almost every major film today, something that we did and we created, was in the course of doing a scene when there's some imminent danger, that there would be a moment of laughter or fun. Not that we were laughing, but that we would say something that was humorous, that would, you know what I mean? It would break up the momentum. As an example, there was a scene on Batman where we're in a warehouse. Now we're looking for the Joker, and all of a sudden, 8 giant guys drop down from wherever they were hiding behind in this warehouse, and now Batman and Robin are facing 8 giant villains, you know what I mean, ready for a fight. And I remember saying to Batman, my line was, "Gosh, Batman, there's 8 of them against the 2 of us. Odds in our favor." Okay, there was only 8, right? but and look at today. Look at all those movies, the bad boy movies. We're in the middle of a fight scene, and their bullets are flying. They're saying, well, if I ever get out of this, I'm not coming to your house, or whatever. Or in all of these superhero movies, it's everywhere. They break right in the middle of the fighting and stuff. They break with some kind of comedic line, and we created that. Adam and I created that.
The relationship on camera, and as you mentioned off screen, you could see there was a genuine rapport and admiration and respect for one another, for you and Adam and you. Like, you were really, truly supporting of each other, as any, entity should be, any cast, any grouping of people should be supporting one another. And then all the other cast of characters that joined you as well. But it was as if you guys were like brothers, and some of that double entendre and some of those facial expressions and the mannerisms were, like you said, as hilarious as actual words being said. And it was as if you had known each other since the beginning of time, and you were related. It was so well played,
Well,
because it was coming from truth.
Exactly. And I'll tell you something, at these shows where we would sign autographs, these memorabilia shows, there was always what we would do. They call them panels. That's where, at a certain time, there can be anywhere from 500 to 5,000 or more. At a huge arena, they had set aside a huge area. There was actually 10,000 people that watched our 45-minute panel. And in the course of doing these panels, Adam and I, we never rehearsed anything. We wouldn't even tell each other anything about what we were going to do because we knew each other so well. And he would play little jokes on me and I'd play little joke. And the audience could tell that during the course of us answering questions and talking, we were ribbing each other in a loving way, absolutely loving way. Like, for example, he would come out. I would be introduced first, and everybody's clapping stuff, hi, hi, and then I would introduce Adam, and I would introduce him, and he would come out in front of all these people, and he'd come up to the front part of the stage, and he'd stand there, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to stand here for a few minutes and let you admire my incredible physical development." And of course, everybody starts laughing, right? And he says, "I'm 88 years old. Would you like to know why at 88 years old I'm in such good condition?" And people, I don't know, right? He say, "Every morning I have a bowl of Burt Ward's Gentle Giants dog food. And look at me, how healthy I am." Fun, very funny. And we would just tease each other. And people could tell that they didn't always know what our answer really meant on a secondary level.
Right.
They knew that we were having fun with each other and they had fun. It just made it that much more endearing.
Somebody had asked, are you still doing personal appearances, things of that nature? Are you still out there at any of the cons that go on and all the different things?
I did that up until this whole COVID thing. And because of that, I haven't done that as much.
Yeah.
And now because I'm so terribly involved in our filmmaking and all the
Gentle
stuff.
Giants too. Yeah.
Oh yes, and we keep growing. Let me tell you something. We never made our dog food with the intention of selling this. Okay, let me tell you what happened real quickly. We rescued these dogs. Okay, we found out that the person who had been rescuing Great Danes in Southern California had died, and all these big, beautiful Great Danes, when people couldn't keep them, they would go to a shelter, and if you didn't get them, and somebody didn't come and get one in 3 days, they'd put them to sleep. And all these beautiful dogs are dying, right? And one of the reasons they didn't take them is because dogs in animal shelters are always barking. And when you see a giant dog in a cage barking, some people are a little intimidated. So we decided to take these dogs. All right. So we took all these dogs, and by the end of the first month, I had 102 full-size Great Danes in my house and 62 puppies under 7 weeks of age. Okay. and so what happened was,
that's the Waltons of dogs.
oh my God. I literally went to the dogs. But what we did when we started caring for them and we saw how short their traditional lifespans were, I said to Tracy, I said, I'm crying every time we lose one of these. And dogs, we've got to do something. And we vowed. And this is back in 1994. We vowed that if we could find a way to help them live longer, we would, because they are gentle giants. The bigger the dog is, the more gentle. People can't believe that. And it's because the dog isn't intimidated by the size of a human being. When a dog can be bigger than you are, okay, they're not intimidated by you. So as a result, and they are just loving pets. So we spent millions of dollars of our own money to develop this very special food. And we got it where our dogs, okay, were living twice their normal lifespan. So when people would come to adopt a dog and they'd pick out, they'd see, wait a minute, that Great Dane there, he looks older. Yeah, he's 18. 18 years old. They only live 7 to 9. But
right.
When they would adopt a dog, we'd say, well, thank you for coming. Have a great day. They said, well, wait a minute. What are we going to feed the dog? Oh, well, you can feed them whatever you want, And they said, no. They said, we want to feed them what you're feeding your dogs, because your dogs are living 2 and 3 times longer than normal. And we had only made this in plain white bags. You understand? We just couldn't stand to see our dogs die so young. So we helped them live twice as long. And then now all of a sudden, the people are saying, well, if you want me to adopt this dog, I want that dog food. So we had to comply. Big deal. 50 states comply with all the labeling laws, which we've all done and for many years. But the point was, then people would get it and we would just basically give it to them for what it cost us. And it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And now this next month in November, we're now starting in the HEB stores all throughout Texas. A fantastic 390 store grocery chain in Texas. And we're in Target stores all across America. We're online on Chewy.com, PetSmart.com, Petco.com, TractorSupply.com, and our own website, GentleGiantsDogFood.com. So, and all of this is grown, and okay, and we're still taking nothing from it, but it does take a huge amount of our time for something that all we wanted to do was help these animals live longer, and we have succeeded, Jim.
I was going to say, with all of this time and all this passion and all this love that you and Tracy and the family have put into this, might not be a monetary situation, but there's obviously something right in here that is coming back your way that forages you to want to keep doing it, huh?
You have to. We can't let them die. Not when you have the ability to say life is the most precious commodity in the world, Jim. There's, in my opinion, nothing more precious than life. And when you have the ability to extend life, it's an obligation. I don't consider it a choice. I have to do this because, and now if somebody else will come out and do all of these things for us, like with our rescue, I remember telling my wife, Tracy, when we got these 102 dogs in our house, right? Giant dogs. And I said, now, Tracy, don't worry about it. I'm sure in a couple of weeks, we'll have somebody.
Tracy, don't worry about it.
Right? It's been 28 years. I'm still waiting for the person to come in and take this over. And I'm a patient person, but 28 years is a long time. And as a result, we can't stop until somebody else, comes in and rescues us and does this. But we love the animals and they love us. And it's, in fact, hold on. Let me show you a 25-and-a-half-year-old dog. Hold on.
I would love to see. Yes, absolutely. Our very special guest. You're watching the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series. If you're enjoying this episode, give it a thumbs up on our YouTube channel, like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. And look who we have there. Who do we have? Our special guest, our surprise special guest is
Tinkerbell. Now, Tinkerbell is an unusual breed. She's not a Chihuahua. It's a different breed, which I can't even pronounce. It's a very unique breed of dogs. But the point of it is, and I would bring some of my big ones, but it would take time. They're all running throughout the house right now. But Tinkerbell is 25-and-a-half years old. Okay, and people, we have all the medical records. We can prove all of this, but she's 25-and-a-half. She's perfectly healthy. And she gets out and she runs around and look how loving she is. All of our dogs, they get such love, Jim, that they and it's such a nurturing environment that we've created for them. You know what I'm saying? And she's 25-and-a-half. I mean, just think of all of your viewers out there. Wouldn't they like to have their dogs live 25-and-a-half years like Tinkerbell?
And you figure 25-and-a-half, and with dogs, it's each year's times 7, right?
Exactly.
So
start doing that. It's got to be what almost 200 years, right?
We're looking at a Guinness Book of World Records situation going on here at the Ward home.
I'll tell you something about the Guinness Book of World Records. There are a few people that write to us and say, "Well, I heard that the oldest dog was so and so and so." I don't know if you know this, but in the Guinness Book, if you qualify to be in there, you still have to pay $9,000 for each one for each one. And I qualify for, I believe, like 7 in World's Fastest Breeder, a bunch of other stuff, World's Youngest Professional Ice Kid. But the thing is our interest is really saving these animals and helping them to live longer. And look how happy this dog is.
Oh,
She's just totally content. She just sits there, trusting. And I bring over, I don't know if I can get one of my big guys to come over.
Yeah, we'd love to see. Sure.
Come on, Tiger. Come here. Come on, girl. Come on, girl. She's coming over. Let me show you. Oh, boy. Hold on one second.
Oh, boy. Yeah, absolutely. Again, our very special guest is legendary actor Burt Ward, who played Robin on Batman.
Come on up here.
So much more. Having a good time on the Jim Masters Show Live, and thanks for being here.
Can you see this face?
Wow. So our next special guest on What's My Line is?
She's actually quite large. She's 250 pounds. She's an English Mastiff. And look at the size of her head. It's actually bigger than mine. Very loving. Okay. Like she's 14-and-a-half years old. Her lifespan is only 6 to 8 years, but she's 14-and-a-half, Jim. Okay. And she's perfectly healthy. Look at her.
Wow.
Just see how just calm. We don't have. By the way, have you noticed we have no barking in our house? We have trained
I don't
all
hear
our
any
dogs
of that.
not to bark, or because and let me tell you something. They don't bark unless they sense danger. Okay, and we've taught them that. And why is that important? Because barking is the beginning of aggressive behavior. And if you let your dog bark, that's like working them into some kind of like a frenzy that can cause them to eventually do something that you don't want to have happen, which reminds me, I'm supposed to give you some tips here for the holiday season. All right.
Yes, it is the holiday season, and that's really a cool thing. I think it's really extraordinary that you actually have put together some great resources and ideas for people because, we're so busy during the holiday season that sometimes the pets, our loved ones or family members that are four-legged and all the rest are often forgot about. Tell us about some really cool things that we could do to keep our pets happy and healthy and safe during the holiday season.
Okay. Well, and in ways it's enhanced during the holiday season, but in a way it's also year round. You
Year
know what I'm saying?
round.
Good common sense. Like for example, with your animals, you never want to put them in a position where they're in danger. And I know people intentionally would not do that, but you can unintentionally, accidentally do that. Okay. So when you have holidays and like things like July 4th, right? You got fireworks and stuff. That frightens dogs. Bring them in. They should be inside during that. And by the way, our dogs all live in our house. They go out whenever they want, right? But these breeds, dogs, they actually want to be in your home. They're not outside dogs. People say, "Oh, well, you mean, but you got those big dogs in your house." That's right. And they live much longer when they live inside your home. So one, keep your dogs inside when there's any kinds of fireworks and things like that. Also, when you have people over, remember, dogs don't see things like we do. As humans, we see differences, shades of gray. So that something, for example, is not all good or not all bad. But a dog doesn't see it like that. They see things in extremes, good or bad, friend or foe. Okay. And you don't want to put your dog at risk of doing something wrong because you haven't paid attention. So you have a bunch of people in your home that your dog doesn't know over the holiday season. Let your dog either, be outside or be in another room. In other words, don't, because you don't know how people are. And a person that didn't tell you that they're scared of dogs could act up or get scared or shriek or do something. And you don't want to put your dog at risk. I tell people all the time, every dog, no matter how big or small, would lay their life down for you to protect you. But you, as a pet parent, have a responsibility to protect them and protect them from not putting them at risk or putting them into dangerous situation or putting them in a case where they could do something wrong. And then ultimately you have a problem with the city or somebody getting hurt or something like that. And the other thing is you have to baby proof your house.
Yeah.
Dogs are like, I mean, as an adult, a dog is like a 5-year-old child. And you can't leave things around that are potentially dangerous. You've got to be careful, and you've got to keep certain foods away from them. For example, people know they know about things like oh uh, coffee and other items that you have to keep away from dogs. But there's actually
Chocolate, is chocolate one of them too?
very deadly for a dog. Okay. And here at holiday season, right, there's candy can be left out on a table. And, everybody's talking, having a good time, and the dog sees that. And remember, a dog has a capacity to smell 1,300 times that of a human being.
Wow.
1,300 times that.
Yeah.
So they can smell that chocolate, and things that smell good to them, they think about eating them, and you got to be careful. A lot of times people are cooking and they have like meat out and they have a big roast or something out, and all of a sudden they can't find the roast. And, and of course, that really can mess up your meal, I will tell you, but it also
That happened to me once when I was a teenager and I had cheeseburger with some French fries and I had it on a platter. Phone rang. I put the platter on my bed, ran into the kitchen when the phones used to be on the wall to
right.
answer it, to talk to my friend. I came back and there was nothing but the tray left.
Right,
And our
right.
English Springer Spaniel, Sparky, you must have inhaled it in 2 minutes.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, and it's just common sense to remember that your dog loves you and you want to protect a life. I had someone that adopted a dog for me and called me up later to say, hey, I just got this wonderful boat. I was thinking taking my boat out with my dog, and I said, I said, like your wife's diamond ring, leave the dog at home. You don't want to be on the water where there's motion and stuff like that, because dogs there's a very deadly condition that kills up to 10% of the dogs in America called bloat and torsion, which is caused by food on the stomach combined with stress or exercise. I like to use the example that when we were kids, people told us, like, don't go in the swimming pool for 30 minutes after you eat. Remember that famous phrase?
You would
Well,
cramp up or something. You could drown. They used to
Well,
say, yeah.
yes, but see, with a human, if a human eats something and then bicycle rides or swims or does or gets all excited about something and gets a cramp, a human can lie down and in 30 minutes you're fine, but not a dog. What happens, a dog's stomach is so poorly attached in its body, and just the way dogs are designed, that any kind of stress when they have food on their stomach causes the stomach to actually flip over, and it shuts out everything going in and out of their stomach, and their stomach begins to die. And you only have 45 minutes at the most to get your dog to an expert surgeon. Your own vet can't even do that surgery, most likely, because it's open stomach surgeries. Like, I tell people, gosh forbid, if you ever had to have open heart surgery, you wouldn't go to your family doctor. You'd go to a cardiologist. You'd go
Go to
to
the
an
specialist.
Right.
Right.
You go to a specialist when you have this major operation that most vets can't even do the operation. And the best thing is to avoid it in the first place. So, how do you avoid it? I'll tell you. One, you only feed your dogs when your dogs are in a relaxed state. If your dogs have been on a leash walk, okay, or in a car ride, or barking because somebody was knocking at the front door, you got to wait an hour before you feed them. That's number one. Okay. And secondly, so the dog has to be in a relaxed state. And then secondly, when you feed your dog or your cat, the atmosphere has to be quiet. You can't have loud television, loud machinery, screaming children. You can't have Dog has to eat in peace and quiet. Third, we elevate our dog's food and water bowls. We elevate them. There's a specific height that every dog should eat at, and drink. And that height is such that when your dog comes over to eat or drink, they only tilt their head down. They never lean down. Why is that? Because dogs' bodies wear out much faster than humans. And one of the reasons that our dogs are running around like puppies in their 20s when other people's dogs aren't is because they've allowed their dog, by the way they fed them, to have to lean down, up and down every day, and it wears their dog's body out prematurely. So some of these things, like no exercise an hour before and after eating, no riding in a car an hour before an hour after eating, and we feed our animals 5 or more times a day, smaller, more frequent meals, for 2 reasons. One, it reduces the chance of this deadly condition because there's less food on the dog's stomach at any given time. That's number one. Number two, dog's digestion is the greatest stress on a dog's body that causes them to age, is the digestion of food. So when the dog has to eat only once or twice a day and is ingesting or digesting a large amount of food, it wears their bodies out prematurely. All of these things that we've discovered by having 15,500 dogs in our home for 28 years. This is what we've learned. And every dog is in our program, and every dog here on this property right now has lived twice its normal lifespan.
Sometimes you see people have their dogs tied up outside when it's frigid and it's icy and it's cold or it's windy, and they're there for hours shivering and sort of, groaning. The weather, depending on where you are, sometimes the winter weather can also be a real tough thing for all animals and humans, but all animals. And tying up the animal outside and just putting them in the backyard and leaving them there for hours like that in horrific weather, not good.
You know, Jim, not everybody should have a dog. Okay. Not everybody should have one. If you've
That's
got the
right.
time, because they're a living creature, they need time, they need love, they need affection, they need care, they need, reasonable medical care as well. You got to take care of them. I mean, it's a responsibility. If you don't have the time, you're better off not to do it. I mean, there's some people that look upon a pet is almost like furniture. I got my house, now I need to get my dog. But no, you need to love a living creature and you need to care for it as a member of your family.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I want to make mention as well, again, the ingredients that are used in Gentle Giants are really the best of the best, right? Because so many um, fancy dog foods out there, I should say, fancy names, and we're scientific and we're this, that. You see it all over the shelves. What are some of the additional things about Gentle Giants that really makes these products stand out from the blur of everything else that sometimes confuses people? They just grab something off the shelf because the packaging looks really attractive or because they saw all the commercials on TV, but they're not necessarily sure what they're buying.
Well, let me explain. And I explain to people that you could go to a grocery store and get the least expensive dog food, or go to a pet store and get the most expensive dog food. And 99% of, because every single food that I've ever seen has this greasy coating of animal fat on the outside. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of like somebody once said to me, "Oh, did you hear that Rolls-Royce was going to come out with a cigarette?" I said, "Well, that's great. Then everybody smoking it will die in luxury, right?"
Yeah.
My point is that it's not how much money you pay. What you want to, and the other thing is, people say, "Well, I was told this is a great food or that's a great food." And when anybody says that to me, I say, "Listen, if anybody ever tells you that a certain food is the best for your dog, just ask them one question." And I said, that question is, "If this food is so wonderful, please show me photos and videos of how long dogs are living eating this food." And to my knowledge, we're the only ones in the world that actually can do that and show it. Okay. Because you can't coat your food with grease on the outside, okay, of every single kibble, and then feed them GMO food that has cancer causing ingredients that the dog's body is absorbing. You can't expect an animal to live long if you don't give it as wholesome food as possible. So it isn't the packaging and it isn't the fancy names or the fancy price. Look for the words non-GMO. Okay. And it's very hard. Almost no dog foods are that way. But humans, I mean, it's like organic. You hear about organic in your grocery store. That means without pesticides. So you want to feed them the best and safest food, and the water should be purified. As many dogs as we have purified water systems here. They're drinking purified water and they're eating non-GMO food that isn't coated with greasy animal fat. And you put those ingredients together, plus you feed them smaller, more frequent meals. It's like the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, baby steps, so to speak. And you use reasonable care and you love them. And one last thing, very important for your viewers. A lot of people worry about something with their dog. Maybe their dog has an illness, maybe their dog has an injury, or whatever. They're worried. Here's the most important thing that you can remember about that. Never show that you're worried in front of your pet. They are far more perceptive than people realize, Jim. Okay. And
Yes.
they've done studies of this. So as much as you're worried about your dog, you worry about it when you're not in the room with the dog. But in front of your dog or your cat, everything is fine. And in fact, my wife Tracy has a kind of a famous phrase. She says, anything that you worry about in front of your dog will last forever. Well, because what happens is your dog doesn't know why you're worried. And they certainly don't know that you're worried about them. But if a dog sees that you're worried about something, again, their minds think that you are in danger, and now they're on guard. What is potentially going to attack my pet parent? Because if something happens to my pet parent, I can't survive, because I can't live without being fed and cared for. They don't live in the wild. They depend on humans. So that's why you don't put stress on an animal, because the famous phrase, stress kills.
So much of what you say applies to us humans as well. So we should carry it over to the care and treatment of our loving animals in our lives, our pets, which is, I think, absolutely beautiful. It's really amazing work that you and Tracy and the family are doing. It's legacy building, but it's also, again, just coming from the essence of who you guys truly are as people. Even though you're well known, in the entertainment world and beloved in television and film and so much more. And like I said earlier, you could easily just be relaxing. You could have your feet in the sand in Miami Beach and be banana colada and swimming just flowing in a hammock or something, swaying away. But it's not who Burt is. It's not who Tracy is. It's not who you
No,
guys are. Yeah.
Jim, let me tell you something. Tracy spends 15 hours a day. That's a long time. That's twice a regular day. 15 hours a day, 7 days a week for 28 years caring for animals. I mean, it is a unbelievable commitment. And by the way, with the holiday season coming up and everything, I have I heard something that I thought I'd like to share with your listeners about happiness. Okay,
Yes.
what is the key to happiness, right? Well, there's actually, as I was told, and I really believe this, there's 3 ingredients to be happy. Okay, number 1, someone to love; 2, something to do; and 3, something to look forward to. Those are the keys to happiness. And if we can all find that in our lives, we could be happy. And happiness is really, really super important.
It really is. And kindness and empathy. And those are the key 3 ingredients that you just mentioned. Burt, what would the Burt Ward of today say to this Burt Ward of then?
Uh, it's great to still be around. Like I say, the first 100 years are the hardest. But in today's world, who knows? With all the wonderful, fantastic things, we live in a world that's got a lot of challenges, right? That we didn't have when I was a kid, and but at the same time, we have technology and we have opportunities. And I think everyone should live each day as though it were your last, and someday you'll be right.
Right. I'd be remiss not to mention the star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That must have also been an extraordinary experience for you.
It was. I'll tell you something. I had been hoping and wanting and thinking about it for 50 years. Now,
Yeah.
I'm a patient person, Jim, but
Yeah.
50 years, don't you think that's kind of a long time to wait? 50 years, you know? But it was a tremendous honor. And actually, what the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce did, they did something absolutely amazing. On Hollywood Boulevard, for any of your viewers that haven't been there, or for viewers that have been there, they may recall that when you walk on Hollywood Boulevard, east or west, those walking west will see every other star, facing them, and people walking east, every other star is facing them. You see, so that people have a chance to, always see all these list of stars. Well, what they did with Adam and my stars is they actually had them where they're only 3 feet apart, about 3 or 4 feet apart, which was just the exact distance that we did most of our dialogue when we were talking with each other. And the stars
Wow.
are facing each other. They're right in front of the Guinness Museum of World Records, very famous, right there on Hollywood Boulevard. And it just was such a tribute to be there, and that they were able to put me there by Adam. It was fantastic, and I'm thrilled about it. And Hollywood Chamber of Commerce does an amazing job. They love Hollywood, and they've helped preserve it. You see the famous Hollywood sign up on the hills. It is just as glamorous as it's ever been, and will always be, Hollywood.
I tell you, it's really been extraordinary. And you are obviously living life to the fullest, you and Tracy and your family. It's something that When you look back early on, you had some wonderful inspirations in your parents and some great guidance. That has made all the difference in the world early on for you too, hasn't it?
It has. When I grew up and I was in school, my parents said, Bert, if you don't want to study, you can make nothing of yourself. But if you want to make something of yourself, you study. And because I wasn't told you have to do this or you have to do that, and I was sort of kind of like said, well, it's your decision. And I said, wow, okay, well, I'm going to make the right decision, because sometimes as we grow up, we tend to want to pressure our kids to do this or do that, and sometimes that actually is good, but on the other times it's also good to let them think that they are the ones that are going to be ultimately responsible for how they succeed or don't succeed in life, and that they should be doing the right thing from when they're very young all the way throughout their life.
I would imagine it must have been a tough occasion when Batman was coming to an end, when you guys knew with all of the incredible scenes and scenarios that you went as a family together through when it was officially coming to an end. That must have been quite a feeling on set, huh?
Well, actually, you have to remember the term is show business. Okay.
That's
It's
right.
not just a show, it's also a business.
It's a
And in the case
business.
of Batman, we had a double-sized crew because of all those effects. Oh my gosh. And the studio was losing, I heard numbers like $300,000 a week. And back in 1968, that's like $3 million a week in today's. And once they made 120 episodes, they had made enough that it would show in reruns for all eternity.
Yeah.
Okay, and for what they calculate. So it was a business decision, but it was great while it lasted. And still, when I would make appearances and people would come up, it'd be so funny. You see the mom and the dad and the couple of kids, and the kids would see their parents change momentarily when the parent would come up, because like the father would say, oh, Johnny, this was daddy's hero and I wanted to be Robin. And the son is looking, Dad, you're talking so strange. And then the mom would say, oh, and I was in love with Robin. They say, Mom, what do I mean, they don't see their parents childlike. And for that moment, then that's why I could go to these appearances and never get tired of it, because
Yeah.
it was so entertaining to see someone as an adult that all of a sudden, right in front of you, is reliving their childhood.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
That's
saying, Jim? What
yeah.
an amazing thing that you're watching them going back and remembering. And I'd have people come up with a beaten up lunch pail, Batman and Robin lunch pail. It looked like an elephant had sat on it or something. And that was their treasure. They had protected that ever since they watched Batman.
It's an amazing feeling. You're a part of American culture, not just through entertainment and television, just truly, especially of these shows of that time, Americana on so many different levels. In looking at the landscape today, are we missing anything in terms of the way shows were done then and how we have this affinity for these shows? We can sing the theme songs. We feel so close to the characters. We can still recall some of the dialogue from years ago. I mean, how many times can people say from the Brady Bunch when Peter Brady said pork chops and applesauce? I mean,
Right.
there's all these things that you could say. Do you think we're missing any of that? I mean, you don't really hear any theme songs anymore that you can hum or whistle to. There's no jingles anymore. It's that warmth and that connection that
When
was
times
there.
have changed, and everything I believe, Jim, is cyclical. And it's like a circle. I think in time it will come back. What we had then was family entertainment and comfort food and comfort television, and I mean, there were bad things in the world, but they weren't like they are today. Now today we have all these bad things happening, but you also have technology that we didn't have before. So there's pluses and minuses, in our lives today that are different from the past. But I believe that everything we do ultimately will come around again, and you'll have those periods of time. I looked at it when I was doing Batman, and I saw these great actresses and actors from before. Like one of the actresses that was on our show was Tallulah Bankhead. She was, most
Oh
people will
yeah.
know that name, but for people that were in the show business, one of the famous old time actresses from the 30s. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I mean, she was the time of Clark Gable and stuff like that. So we had a healthy respect for performers before us, and I have a healthy respect for performers now. It's just a different world that we're living in. We're all adjusting to technology, and hopefully, as a population in our world, that will make better decisions going forward and live safely and try to uplift people instead of trying to harm people. But I believe you have to instill values when animals and humans are young. You can't wait until where you haven't watched them, you haven't guided them, and now they're an adult or near an adult and making mistakes that they probably wouldn't have made, because I believe we are born innocent, animals and humans. But in our society and what we all have a tough time in life. It's not easy, but we really got to focus on caring for our children and providing them with the values that we want them: honesty, integrity, sharing, caring, all the things that we value as a society. We need to be kind to each other. Our world has become so one against the other type of thing. It needs to pull back a little bit, take a breather, and say, and that's why we have, by the way, my wife and I created this Burt Ward annual Batusi for world peace. So every year we take a day and we send out all of this all around the world, and we get videos from individuals, from TV stations, from people, where they take 5 minutes of their life and stop whatever they're doing and dance that Batusi. And I'll tell you something,
I love that.
All of that. And, we're actually going to put out a little show that we, from our first one. But
Cool.
People just love the idea, and everybody has fun. And all of a sudden, that neighbor that maybe you didn't think about, that you cared for too much, they're doing the Batusi, and you laugh, and it's like, wow, we can live and let live in our world.
That's right, my
we don't
friend.
have to be so tense every moment of every day. And that's what we want to do. We want to leave this planet better off than we found it. That is what Tracy and my goal is, to do that. We do it with animals. And sometimes now people will say, well, Bert, you and Tracy, I mean, all you do is this for animals and that. Why don't you do something for humans? And I said, well, now wait a minute. If I help you keep your dog an extra 5 or 10 years living healthy and longer, don't you think I've done something for you? They go, oh yeah, you're right. I never thought of it that way. I mean, but we all can benefit by doing kind things and making a better world for all of us. And the challenge is that we're living in more difficult times. And when you live in more difficult times, you have to make a greater effort to fix things and do things right.
Absolutely right. I couldn't have said it better myself. We're kindred spirits. We talk a lot about that here on our show, and I do off air as well. It's so beautifully and eloquently said, my friend, and somebody else that agrees 100% with what you're saying. And you were talking earlier about some of the legends you had an opportunity to work with and pay heed and homage to. Mr. George Burns is with us.
Oh, I remember he had a great line. Do you remember when he was 100 years old, they interviewed him? A TV station went out and interviewed him. He was living in Illinois, south of Chicago. And they said, Mr. Burns, you're 100 years old. And how do you like living in this little city? He said, at 100 years of age, I'm glad to be living anywhere.
I'll take any city. He's still got a cigar. He's got his red pocket square, and he sits below. He's always here on every episode of the Jim Master Show series. And he's got a big martini down below that he's always sipping. But he said he sends you his love, him and Gracie. He loves what you're doing. My aunt collected dolls, big time, very serious doll collector,
That's
real
wonderful.
serious dolls.
Beautiful doll, yes.
The beautiful, came out when he turned that magic number, and it got passed down in the family to me. So he pops on towards the latter part, and he just wanted to say continued blessing and joy to you and to Tracy and to the family. He thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. And somebody else that's a contemporary of yours as well, Gilligan, same thing. This came from Bob Denver's wife, Dreama, says aloha. Jim. She was a guest a couple of times on our show as well. And she's a breath of fresh air as well. And so Gilligan is also saying hello. And
Well, I remember, I was at an event, Adam and I don't remember exactly what it was. It was an event. It could have been a memorabilia show, but there was a big dinner. And just imagine a table. It must have been, well, a series of tables put together that was 50 or 60 feet long. And they had the stars from all these television shows. And Bob was there with the cast, you know what I mean? And from Gilligan's Island and some of these other shows. And I said hello to him, and it just was a fond time and a fond memory. I even have a video of that sometimes I like to pull out and watch and look at those and see all of these people. They were all contemporary actors in television shows that were very popular at that time. And we were all at like this big dinner, and it was just a great event.
I would imagine too, somebody did ask earlier, do you have any memorabilia from the Batman series that you have that's yours that you were able to keep?
Yes, well, one of the things I actually made my own Robin costume when I was doing the series, and let me tell you why.
Oh, you did? I
Because
didn't know
they
that.
had 6 of them at all times, but
Yes.
because of the fight scenes, the capes would get a little frayed on the collars. I mean, as much as they tried to protect it, you know what I mean. The vest would start to come apart, the wool and stuff like that. So I made a beautiful costume that I used in close-ups. That was, I did no fight scenes in it, so it was always looking really sharp. So that I was able to keep, and then I got a batarang from the show, and I kept one of my masks. So and I
Cool.
have that in plastic, and again, it's kind of like an art piece that you would see in a museum. Sometimes I think like I'm going to be in a museum someday.
Are there,
Something no
well,
wonder.
has Madame Tussauds done anything on Batman and Robin yet?
I believe there are. I
Yeah,
believe there
yeah.
are, and I don't know if it's Madame Tussauds, but I do know that there are wax museums with images of Adam and I. And I remember at one point of making an appearance at one of these. Adam and I made an appearance with where there were these completely decorated mannequins that looked very much like us, very lifelike.
What does it feel like for you when all of a sudden you're flipping through the dial and Batman comes on? What does that feel like for you? I mean, we have our version as the consumers of it, but having been a part of the series and knowing what people think, that must be an interesting feeling when you flip through the dial and here's an episode of something you were a part of.
Well, it's of course it makes me smile, but something you might not think of that I think of when I see one of these episodes is that I think of what was actually happening at the time I filmed it in that particular scene. In other words, like I'll watch some of these scenes and I remember this is just before that explosion went off that nearly blinded me, or I remember that being hung over the top of a sound stage where they said, "Oh, now Bert," and I said that's 70 some odd feet high. You want me to hang over the soundstage, and you're telling me that you're going to have 2 strong stuntmen holding me. And I said, and we've just had lunch with fried chicken for lunch. They might have greasy hands and drop me. So I just tie a rope around my ankle and tie it onto a pole. I mean, a big, thick rope that I wasn't going to take a chance of being dropped. But let me tell you something. They did these things really. I mean, these were really shot. It wasn't faked. Where they'd have me over the top of the sound stage and all kinds of things. There's one thing I'll tell you. One last thing that's really kind of a scary thing. They had a scene with the Catwoman show where there were 3 wild Bengal tigers. Okay,
Mm,
and tigers are not real trainable. Okay,
no.
but they were, they were movie tigers, so to speak, where they control them to a certain extent, but they don't get in with them or anything. They're way too dangerous. And they had a scene where there's 3 Bengal tigers under me, and there's like a plank that I'm tied with my arms at my sides, my head over the end, facing down at the tigers. Now I was 12 feet above them, and they can jump 16 to 18 feet. They could have jumped over my head if they wanted to. All right. And above me, 10 feet above me in a steel cage was the cameraman and the director fully protected, right? And they're 10 feet above me in a steel cage, right? And I am not in a steel, I have no protection whatsoever. And so the scene goes where the director is saying, to them, oh, because it's a real thing. Now say, well, can't you make the tigers do something? And they said, well, what do you want? Well, we got to get some action here. We got to see a danger for
Yeah.
Robin. So what they did is they started tapping above their heads, which of course made them look up. Well, that wasn't satisfactory to the director. So he said, you got to do more. You got to do more. You know what they ended up doing? Again, I told you things were not as safe then as they are today. They hung meat over my head. And so the tigers would jump up, and I'm going like this with all my strength, trying to pull back the plank. I get clawed in the face. And after the scene, they said, "Oh, Burt, that was the greatest act. Look, totally it was real. Gosh, the tiger, Bengal tigers in my face." I mean, Jim, these are the kind of things I remember when I watched an episode where I was. Oh yeah, I went to the hospital right after that shot. Yeah,
but they got the scene. They got what they wanted. They were happy.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
you risked life and limb for it.
Exactly.
If people only realized what it took, right? Because a lot of things were a little more antiquated than they are now. Now you can do that digitally, and you're not even maybe necessarily in the room. It's like
right. And in terms like with animals now in these movies with animals, that now they're all digital animals. So all these organizations can't complain about the mistreatment of animals because the animals aren't really there. It's all digital, and it's now so lifelike. And the quality of digital filmmaking and these visual effects. I remember Tracy said to me one time, my wife, she said to me, and this is when we met, and this is in 1988. We were talking about the movie business, and she said, "Burt, someday one person will sit down at a computer and make an entire feature film by themselves." I said, "Tracy, don't you ever say that to anybody. They're going to think you're nuts. Don't you ever, oh my gosh, don't ever do this." Guess what? It's coming to pass. She was right then. And who would have known? The technology, Jim, is there. And that's why we're so excited with the limited team that we have of being able to do feature films and television shows using the power of technology and the creativity. I mean, you see some of these movies where they use a digital person, but you can tell, that's not really. But let me tell you, Jim, it is now out. I haven't seen any movies with it yet, but there are digital humans you cannot tell. You cannot tell that they're not living and real. It's so lifelike. Every mannerisms, controls like there used to be on a digital face. You could have 60 controls, 60 different controls of the face.
Unreal.
Now there's 140 controls just to control every curve of the mouth and plus with motion capture where they can capture your action. Now what would have to be filmed and all of this stuff, you could put a suit on with all of these little things that pick up the motion in 3D space and recreate it, and you can make a feature film with a small crew.
I think they're doing that now with some of the performers too who have passed on, like Whitney Houston and others, where they're actually creating sort of this virtual reality version, and she actually comes out on stage and it's all imagery and digitalized and the whole bit, but it's as if it's like really her before you with the mannerisms and of course the voice put in too, dubbed in, but it's unbelievable. You actually think that she's there before you.
Absolutely. And another thing, Tracy and I just formed another company called Superheroes to the Rescue. And this is the company we're going to be making all our movies with. And we've got, in the case like with our dogs, our named Gentle Giants. Well, we have Gentle, is a great big Great Dane. And Giant is like little Chihuahua, both that wearing their crime fighting costumes. And we go out and save the world from heinous villains. And I mean, fun, kind of wonderful family entertainment that's wholesome, that, it just leaves a warmth in your heart, and that's what we want to do, because we want everybody to help a little bit in this world. Like we tell people, even if you can't do much, you could take a blanket and drop it off at an animal shelter so a dog doesn't have to sleep on a concrete floor, or there's things that all of us can do. And something, when you actually do something good for someone else, it really feels good for you. You
Yes, it
know,
does.
I mean, I remember as a child growing up, oh, I could hardly wait to Christmas and all the presents and
Me too.
but now I get as much satisfaction as doing something nice for someone else. And it really warms your heart when you see someone else light up and you've done something positive, you know. And saving a life, Jim, is so precious. It is the most precious thing in the world, life. And when you can save a life, it is a fantastic thing.
What are those continued blessings and joys in your life that keep you moving forward in this such positive and inspiring direction? You are as much, a legendary talent of acting and television, and also a kind-hearted soul with Tracy, wanting to care for animals in the way that you do, and all the other things you continue to do and have done in your career. What do you think it is deep inside that drives you forward? Where does all of this positivity come from, and what are those blessings and joys in your life and inspirations that keep you moving forward in such a beautiful direction, Bert?
And I don't know exactly how it came about, but I feel an obligation in as mankind has to improve things, to make it a better world for all of us. I feel an obligation. I'm both Tracy and I are very driven in that respect, that we feel we have to do something. We have to make a we have to do more. There's so much to be done. There's so much toughness in the world, and there's so much that could be done to make this so much a better world for all of us. We have to do something, and so that's what drives us, and certainly, yeah, we could vacation anywhere in the world and not be doing anything. I don't think I'd be happy. I don't think Tracy would be happy, but we are excited when we make a breakthrough and we've done this or we've done that or we've achieved this, or in the technology we're developing for our filmmaking to do something that nobody else has seen before. Nobody. And what are you going to do with that? You're going to entertain them. You're going to help them live moments of time happier, okay, than maybe they were before you had what you have.
I toast you, my friend. You really are a positive source, and you have been for many, many years, and continue to be. You're always welcome here back on the Jim Masters Show Live series. We'll always keep the porch light on for you, always keep the door open anytime there's new things or celebratory situations, new product. Maybe it's something you just want to, share with us. You are definitely welcome back at any time, because you just bring such levity and love and light, and just such warmth to what we do here that we try to do all the time. And it's really cool stuff. So continued blessings to you and to Tracy and to your family, and really an honor stopping by our show. We really loved it, and wishing you a fabulous holiday season as well. And thanks for all the tips too, and valuable stuff, Bert.
Well, thank you. And as we said on Batman, to the Batmobile.
I love that. Before we go, I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I have with you. And any final words about our conversation, about the show, or anything that you wanted to share, my friend?
Well, I just want to thank you for being such a good and perceptive person that listens and asks questions and interviews, where it makes it so much easier for the person being interviewed when you have somebody that pays attention, knows their subjects, does their research, totally professional. And you remind me of the great actors and actresses that came onto our set on Batman. So I give you that wonderful compliment.
I appreciate that. And as my father has always said and continues to say, and told us even when we were kids, great advice that comes from the dads. Whenever anybody says something kind or nice, Jim, ask them to please put it in writing and address it management.
I'll do that if you like. It's absolutely true, and it really does. It makes a difference, and I think it makes a difference to your viewers. I think they sense that if you're involved and you're aware and you're asking questions, that it's going to be more interesting to them than somebody that just has a sheet in front of them and say, "Well, what about this or what about that?"
Right. That's why I call these conversations instead of interviews, good conversations, because I think they cut to the core a little bit deeper, kind of like Dick Cavett, Carson, and some of the legends had.
Oh
I always
yeah.
would always pay homage to that. Gang, there are the websites to check out. Be sure you do check out the 8-minute video he was talking about as well. There are some really cool things with the animation company and so much more. We will definitely have Burt back on the show. Thanks for all you do, you and Tracy. You really are people of great spirit and love, and a real pleasure having you on the show, Burt Ward. And we'll keep the porch light on for you, my friend.
Thank you so much, Jim. Take care.
You're welcome. Take care. Thanks for all the time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. The one and only, the iconic Burt Ward, joining us here on the Jim Masters Show Live, Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series. Again, we want to show you those websites. Very important. Check that out, because he's been on the show previously. We talked about Gentle Giants, but he had so much more new material. Plus, you got some more nuggets from Batman, the series, and his career, his passions, his life, and also the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which was exciting just about 2 years ago. And of course, more about the reasons why this is one of the best investments you can make in your canine's life. Again, they have the products there. And let me show you this other website as well. Really cool stuff, gang. You may, if you're watching for the first time, and this is the first time you saw Burt Ward on our show, you might be saying, I didn't know he was doing this. I thought he was just going to Hollywood galas and showings. This is what he and his wife Tracy have made. He mentions 28 years, a part of their life, and they have rescued and they have saved and they've extended the life of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dogs. And yes, you can check out the other products as well that are available at the website. We want to pull this up on the screen too. I mean, it's really incredible. And the website's fantastic. And I also love that he ties in sort of the Batman theme along with all natural Gentle Giants, world-class canine cuisine. And you can check it all out. They have a love of life, a love of family, and a love of animals. And you got a chance to hear just some of it from Burt Ward himself, as well as some cool nuggets about his wonderful friendship with Adam West, of course, who played Batman, a friendship that went from beginning to end. And yeah, that is Burt with his mom. Isn't that a great shot? An earlier shot as well of Burt. He's always immersed. Look at this. This is a great collage that they created. He's got so much going on. It's really incredible. There they are, he and Tracy, in the Batmobile. Isn't that a great one? That's another great shot. It wasn't it cool? You might not have realized too. He told us a little nugget there when he shared with us on the show that he made the capes too that you saw, many of them on the series. That's cool. Who knew that, right? Something you always learn here on the Jim Masters Show Live series. So cool stuff. Again, we encourage you again with the holidays coming up. Some of those tips, all of those tips that he gave are invaluable. Care for your pets. They are part of your family. Treat them well, feed them well. Go to the Gentle Giants sites. Let them know you heard about it on the Jim Masters Show Live. If there's a place to comment or, hey, how'd you hear about us? Tell them that you heard about it on the Jim Masters Show Live. They would love to know that you spent some time with us and you heard about it here. I know many of you have already said that you're going to the website and you're going to be ordering already for your family friends, which I think is really, really cool. It almost sounds so good. You almost want to eat it yourself, right? Extending life and no animal fat. And wouldn't necessarily recommend you do that, but share it, of course, with your pets. And this is really cool. Colleen Gaynor watching. I did not know he was doing this. It's a wonderful time giving back, and he loves it, doesn't he? He speaks so fluently about the years with Batman, but also as much, if not even more, with Gentle Giants. And yeah, and I love what Jen Barry says in Pennsylvania. Burt, you and your wife are now always loveties. Jim Masters Show loveties. Absolutely. Colleen says Jim Masters is great. I agree with Burt Ward. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. The two of you, you're making me blush here. David is here. And of course, David Van Dusen, we know David, of course, did the documentary on the Dick Van Dyke Show. He was a guest on our show celebrating the 60th anniversary of Dick Van Dyke's wonderful show. He keeps the flame alive. He did that whole documentary that has been well received. He was a guest on our show. I'd love to have him back. I'd love to have him back on the show with my friend and his, Doug Denoff, whose dad is Sam Persky, one of the head writers on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Doug is also very involved in Broadway in New York, an investor, producer. And Larry Matthews, too, of course. We would love to have him join us. So we'll have to have David back. But just a fabulous show. Thanks so much. Thank you, David. You're in that world like we are of television and all. And I know you really appreciate it, being such a wonderful celebrator of the Dick Van Dyke Show. I know you really enjoyed seeing Burt Ward on our show. We really appreciate that. And if you haven't seen the documentary that David did celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Dick Van Dyke Show series, you got to check that out. Really, really something special. Kathleen in New York City says, what a great conversation. Loved it, Jim. Thank you. Thank you as well. We really appreciate it. Chris watching in Northern Ireland. Great conversation. Jim, Burt is such a great guy, isn't he? That's why I wanted him back. We had such a ball the first time, and everybody talking about the conversation we had the first time. And that's what we do, conversations here with guests from Broadway, Hollywood, television, film, music, stage, culinary arts, sports, comedy, inspiration, life. Nothing is scripted. It's all conversational, like the old school talk shows. We bring you guys in interactive. I'm an interactive host, and you can watch all these episodes, including this again, on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Subscribe, like, comment, share, and enjoy. Jen Barry says, Jim, thank you so much. Without you, we would never be able to meet and talk to your guests, Burt, and all the guests. Humbled, and thank you to you, Jim. Thank you. The pleasure is all mine. I'm glad you enjoyed it, gang. This is really fantastic. Colleen, this took her back to... The conversation with Burt Ward took her back to her very little 6-year-old childhood memories. She is smiling. She just went back. She got transported back to 6 years old. That's what Burt was talking about. He's very aware and very cognizant of the fact that the iconic television series he was a part of that is still beloved today, when you watch it, takes you back in time to your own childhood. Or if you weren't a child then, maybe not even born when the series was initially out, when you watch it, still it gives you sort of an innocence, a cool feeling. Let me again throw up those websites for you. I really encourage you to go there, share that with others, colleagues, family, and friends. You'll be glad you did. If you really care about your pet, you'll be glad that you did. This was tremendous, really spectacular. And we thank all of the amazing folks. Did you see the episode when Loretta Swit was with us? Wow, that was iconic. She was wonderful. She, like Burt, is also a fabulous animal welfare activist. She's an artist, an author. She showed us some of her fabulous paintings. We talked about the 50th anniversary of MASH. She's a legendary actress. She was with us recently, exclusively on our show, as was Marion Ross and Barry and Stanley Livingston. And you go on and on, Daphne Maxwell Reid from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and more. So many incredible people. Melissa Manchester, the Pointer Sisters, they've been here. And hundreds and hundreds of people right here on the Jim Masters Show. If you missed anything, you can see it all archived on our YouTube channel. Check out almost 900 episodes as of now. Don't forget to give this episode a hearty thumbs up. There's a thumbs up icon on our YouTube channel. Give it a thumbs up. When you do that, YouTube loves it, and they'll share it with more. We love it as well, and our international audience watching. And, of course, don't forget to comment and subscribe to the channel. So this is your host, Jim Masters. We're glad you enjoyed this. If you missed anything, you see it again on our YouTube channel. We appreciate every single one of you. As we always say, we don't say goodbye around here. We say see you later, ciao, cheers, hasta la vista, shalom, sayonara, moi loop. Take care, be well, and love one another. Take care of one another. And don't forget to take time for yourself. It is so important to do that. As you care for others, care for yourself as well. We'll be back with another incredible episode of the Gym Masters Show live series. Once again, we thank our incomparable, the always affable Burt Ward for stopping by once again here on the Gym Masters Show live series. We will see you guys again soon. Thanks again for all these great comments coming in, still pouring in here. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, Jen, and everybody for all of your love and support of our series. You can find me also on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Gym Masters TV. And Burt, of course, is all at those fun places as well. We'll see you again soon. We love you all. Thanks for watching this episode of the Gym Masters Show Live. Cheers.